Take for example the UbiGo case. As the app was actually developed by a company that was set up really sort of within the Living Lab as a sort of an organizational body, and it was the company's sort of business model to have that app which would connect all different kinds of transport providers to the users, be it trains, car sharing,
even taxis,
but also of course if you would just use your own bike. And actually the company itself went bankrupt. They didn't survive, but what did happen was that for example the public transport provider became aware of that they need to think much more in terms of how their transport and mobility services interact with other modes of transport, and it created a shift later on within the public transport company in Gothenburg about how they actually relate and connect their mobility services to, for example, to taxis, and so you could say that that was an indirect outcome of the Living Lab. It failed in the sense that the company went bust, but it did change. It did have behavioral change within another company. So it's often these sort of indirect effects that you can perhaps see within as an outcome of a Living Lab, and therefore it's important to keep really monitor that beyond sort of the actual perhaps lifespan of the project.
And I could perhaps add that in terms of governance, I think that these urban living labs also kind of create they create a sense that this is also part of governance. So a broader understanding, for example, by the state or by the municipalities, that this is also something we can do to solve the problems in the community. We can do this experiment. So sort of a kind of general recognition for this as a mode of governance, and I suppose that could be an effect as well. But in the case of UbiGo, there was particularly then in the Swedish context. We have a very strong the public transportation is very strong, and it owns kind of the whole sphere of public transportation, and it's being challenged then by these new apps and new systems that the apps are based on. So this is, just like Lars said, a challenge to an actor that's, I suppose, has a certain institutionalized behavior, which could make it rethink, like you were saying, its how it's organized and make a better mobility service for everyone.
Not seeing, for example, car sharing as a potential competing mode of transport, and see also those companies then as competitors, but rather sort of take the perspective perhaps of citizens and say, how can we provide an optimal sort of portfolio of mobility alternatives, and how can we collaborate in that space